Well, welcome in. I'm super excited to have this powerhouse guest today. I know you're going to love her. The minute I met her, I knew I was going to like her. She gave me a second chance that I'll tell a story about in a second because it's hilarious. But I want to welcome in Jennifer Takagi of Takagi Consulting. She is actually a purpose coach in similarity kind of to what I do. We have very similar wheelhouses. So she really works with women to kind of tap into that purpose, their intuition, to really step into who they want to be and where they want to go in their lives. Tons of corporate background, so lots of corporate training experience as well. So Jennifer comes to us really having a ton of beautiful wisdom and insight from her journey as a professional woman. And so I am going to just dive in. I wanted to introduce her, get her in this space, and then we're going to just get moving and talking about purpose. So of course, she's again in my wheelhouse. So I want to share this funny story about Jen and I, because I met her at a women's conference and I sat next to her, I think the third day. And I want you to understand, I was so tired. When I say so tired, I mean, it's like just like soul spirit tired because I had been going for like 4 or 5 days because we added some time on at the beginning of our trip. And I, by that night, like not having the normal rest, not having alone time to really meditate. Like I was like soul tired by day 3 and I sat next to Jen and I don't know if I said 4 words to her. Which is hilarious because normally you can't shut me up. And so, and you've met me now you know me well enough to like, you're probably like, what happened there? It's just cracks me up that it was like such a bizarre, I don't know. I was like in this other world state. So, but I met you and I instantaneously loved your energy. And you just know that you and I both, I think very much feel the energy from other people. And one of the things that really stood out to me right away, 2 things. You are a no bullshit woman, which always resides for me. Like that's always like just deeply, and you had such a good sense of humor. There is something so warm and charismatic about you, but I just really loved how you carried yourself. And so I left there. I'm like, that woman's probably never going to speak to me again. She probably thinks that woman is a dud. And so, so I'm so grateful to have gotten to know you better after that whole conference, because I know that by the end there, I was like, it was a little grim on my side of things. I want to invite you to talk about purpose. And I say all the time, Jen, that I really love gritty people, and gritty people are my people. And they're the people who have experienced the things. They step into that. They're transparent about it. They're vulnerable in it. They're willing to step into that space to allow others to take a lesson. And that's something that I know that you do as well. So I want to just kind of open the floor to you sharing maybe a bit about some of the stops, the grittiness in your journey to getting you where you are today in the successful place that you're functioning from. Tell me about the steps that it took you to get there.
Well, it's so good that we could be friends after you sat by me all day and did not speak at all. And I kept wondering, is she ever? And at one point you looked at me and went, I'm sorry, I'm just tired. And I thought, dang, I move tables every day to meet new people.
I know,
And
right?
I get this one, I get this one, which I totally get it. At some point, you're like at your total max. So I love that. So when you asked me to talk about purpose, it's kind of funny because I very much am the girl who just stumbled into success like at every place along the way. I didn't have a huge plan for my life. Life just kind of happened. And like it started in high school, I'm visiting with my high school Spanish teacher. And I said, gee, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to Oklahoma State University. I don't know what I'm going to major in. What am I going to do? And she went, what do you like? I'm 18. I'm a senior in high school. I hate everything. Like, senioritis.
Right.
Math, I hate it. History, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, we just go down it. And finally she goes, I had 2 years of French, a year of Spanish, a year of Latin. Do you like languages? Yeah, I do. She goes, great. Here's a pass. Go get the form. You're going to go to the University of Oklahoma. You're going to major in French and Spanish. And that's what you're going to do. Here's the form. Go. And we literally sat there and filled out my application to the University of Oklahoma, mailed it in. the next week, she had asked me to get this form about a school in Mexico, and it said teachers don't apply, give this applications to your students. So I filled it out. I get home from school, my mom goes, hey, there's a big package for you in the entryway, go see what it is. I go look and I went, oh, that's for my Spanish teacher. Off I go to my after school job. I come home that night and she goes, go sign the documents in the kitchen. And I went, okay, what documents? And she goes, you're going to school in Mexico and you need to sign those papers and you're going. So like, I didn't grow up and say, I want to go to the University of Oklahoma. I want to major in French. Right. I want to get an honors degree. Like it just happened. Then I just happened to go to school in Spain and France. I just happened to. Things just happened. So for you planners out there, I love that you're a planner. I'm good with that. Like I applaud you, but I just like life happens and I just keep going. So I graduate from the University of Oklahoma. Okay. Boomer Sooner. Woohoo. And I'm going to give my age away. It is May of 1985. And we had the oil bust and we had the Penn Square Bank failure, which was in Oklahoma City, about 4 miles from my house right now. There were no jobs, like none. I got a job. It was just whatever and blah, blah, blah. So I'm kind of hopping jobs. And back in the day, it was pretty normal to have 4 to 7 jobs before you found your stride. Okay. So like, I thought I would like hit the max. Like I was going for the gusto. I wanted all 7. So I'm job hopping. My dad comes home. He works for the federal government. He was like, here, get a temporary job at the office. Yeah. Okay. It's a job. I'll take it. So I did. And that started me on the path of mortgage banking. I stayed in mortgage banking for a full 30 years when it was all said and done. Ooh. Okay. I graduated college without a math class. I did not take a business class. That was like satanic to me. I wouldn't even walk by the business college because I am a French major. Like I don't do business. So here we go. I'm in the federal government. I'm working along. I have a couple of goals. I'm like going to run the office. That's my goal. I'm going to run the office when it's all said and done. Spoiler alert. I did not run the office when it was all said. Mm-hmm. Because I really didn't want to. Like when it all came down to it, like I was a little too sassy for it. I was a manager. I did great things. They called me to Washington and said, here, spend $500 million over the summer. Shopping? Not really. Not really. I was like, hey. It was a hard summer. It was a lot of work. But I just happenstance. I got a job. It was a job and it paid and it had benefits. It ticked all the boxes. Yeah. So purpose. What was my purpose? My purpose was to do whatever job I had really well. Right. Really well. Right. What is her name? Mary Barra, the CEO of GM, in an interview said, somebody asked her, did you plan to be the CEO? Because she started like in high school or right out of high school at GM. And she goes, oh no. I just did every job I had to the best of my ability and people started noticing. And it was like, okay, well, I didn't even know her back then. We could have been friends. Exactly. But like, that was my deal. I just wanted to be really good. I wanted to find purpose in whatever I was doing, even if it wasn't fully aligned. So I'm talking to a friend one time and he was like, yeah, I'm an engineer. I don't have any purpose. Like I don't help people. And I was like, yeah, you do. We go to a concert and you're the one who designed the speakers for the entire arena. Right. Like, that's something. So people forget that they do the thing, whatever, because it's just a thing. So I ended up, much of my career was in low-income housing apartment complexes, making sure they were safe, decent, and sanitary. I didn't want a blight for the neighborhood, but I also didn't want the people living in filth. Just because they're poor doesn't mean they should be living in filth. So I had a lot of purpose. So going along, always been a Christian, always known God. I'm okay if you don't, but I don't understand how you live that way. That's okay though. Like, I'm not going to judge you. We can still go for cocktails. It's all right. But like, I always knew God. We always had little conversations. Whenever the answer is no, I'm never thrilled, just like a 3-year-old. What do you mean? You just told me no. But
Mhm.
the no's come along the way. And there were times along the way where I thought, man, I think I heard the voice of God. Like, I think I did. So fast forward. I am sick. I have bronchitis. I am so sick. I can barely keep my head up. And I let the dog out. And I'm sitting at the kitchen table smoking cigarettes, drinking juice. Now, those of you who've never smoked a cigarette in your life, you judgy people, you don't understand. It doesn't matter that you can't get a breath. You still want a cigarette. Like, I've quit now. Okay. So you get over it. But I'm sitting there smoking a cigarette, hacking up along. Just, I'm on the verge of, needing oxygen or something. And I thought, I have got to get in the shower and go to work. Like, I have to go. And this sweet, gentle voice said, stay home and take care of yourself. Then this very harsh voice said, go to work. You have things to do. And the gentle voice, stay home, take care of yourself. The harsh voice gets all judgy on me and starts listing all the things I need to do that day.
Of course.
So I decide to compromise, and I'm going to call in sick and say, I'll try to come in at noon. So I call, and my boss's secretary, Teresa, she answers the phone, and I was like, Teresa, this is Jennifer. She goes, oh my God, you sound terrible. And I said, yeah, but like, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to get in the shower in a little bit. I'm going to try to come in at noon. And she goes, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.
Exactly.
I was like, okay. And about 2 hours later, the whole house shook. The dogs are barking. The china is rattling, the whole house. And I was at 134th Street. My office was the Murrah Federal Building on 5th Street. So that many blocks away. And that was the Oklahoma City bombing. And I was that far away. So people wonder, like, who felt it? People felt it, a long way. It shook
Right.
the earth for sure.
Right.
And blah, blah, blah. I found out it was actually my building, and those were my people, and that was my thing. And I can remember thinking, it was not my day today. Like, God literally told me to stay home. I've since learned it could have been a guardian angel. It could have been the Holy Spirit. It could have been, it doesn't matter. It was divine.
Right. Absolutely.
Why did the other people die that day? Because it was their day. Why? I don't know. I do not have a clue. So people afterwards would say, oh my gosh, Jennifer, you were saved for a purpose, for greater things. Oh, thank God you were saved. And I'm like, okay, I do not want that burden. Like, I'm not that girl. Like, I just want to go to work and do a good job. Like, I can't be in charge of the universe. Like, I pretend I want to be, but not really. Like, that's a joke. That's a joke, universe. That I like, not really. So one day I'm in this Bible study, and we come across a verse. I've got to look it up so I can like quote it, but it's something like, your only purpose on earth is to bring glory to God. And it was like, okay, done. Like, done. I'm a believer. I'm always a believer. So, I can talk about my faith. I don't have any problem with that. But I don't have to save the world. My purpose is to bring glory to God. How do I do that? I help other people. I help with leadership development skills. I've stepped into a new passion with some more spirituality, and people often call it the woo stuff. And I can read Akashic records. And I am in the process of getting certified in the emotion code to heal, past trauma, doing that with you, girlfriend. So like, I find I have a whole lot of purpose. But it doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to weigh me down. It doesn't have to be
right.
Like, I have to do everything.
Yeah.
And I think that like two things happen. One, people get so hung up on fulfilling their purpose that they drive themselves crazy and work themselves to death. And then you've got the other people who are like, yeah, I don't have a purpose. Like, I'm out. I do not have a purpose. And it can be middle of the road. I love being middle of the road. I call myself a fence walker. Let's talk politics. Oh, wait, no, I'm on the fence. It's like, I'm on the fence. It's the same way with purpose. Yeah. Embrace your purpose, love your purpose, but you don't have to work yourself to death. And you also don't have to run away with it.
Right. Exactly. No, well said.
More than you wanted to know, but
okay. Oh, no, that was exactly what I wanted to know. Here's what's beautiful. I want to back up in your story because it's so awesome. The way that you talk about the steps. And I would say too, you have a story that you told me when you and I were getting to know each other that I really love about being on an airplane. And how you sat next to a woman, right, in all of your Christianity and all of your upbringing, and she ended up talking to you. Can you tell just a brief? Because I want to throw that, because here's why. That is a brilliant freaking example of a piece of your purpose story that was so divinely guided. You couldn't have asked for a better situation. So do you mind? Because this is what I like doing, is outlining those steps of the journey where things felt complicated and hard, or we weren't sure, and how you're still doing the work even when you're not sure, or when you're bumping into something that makes you deeply uncomfortable. So do you mind sharing that story about the airplane? Because I just love that story. You told that, I'm like, yep, that's magical.
Is this a woman who said you just opened up the doors? Okay. Yes. So I was on a business trip flying home from LA to Oklahoma City, and I had to fly to Dallas first. We were on this humongous plane that had the 3 seats, 2 rows. It was a big plane flying to Dallas. And I sit down and this woman comes and sits, and the 2 of us are in a 3-seat row. You know, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And she said, yeah, I'm going to a retreat. I didn't really know what that was. I'm going to retreat, and it's all on, following your purpose in the divine and the stars and the spirits. And I'm like, yeah, this lady is freaking nuts. And she goes, if you could do anything you wanted to do, what would it be? And I said, I was recently at a conference, and this lady was the worst trainer in the world. Like, she walks in the middle of the room with her microphone and goes, hello, my name is Jennifer Takagi. And today, and I thought, oh my God, give me the book. I could do a better job. Give it to me last night. I could have done this session better. And I said, I think when I retire one day, I think I want to be a trainer. Like, I really like that. I do that a lot of work anyway. Mm-hmm. And I think I want that like to be my job. Like, I think I want to do that. And she goes, well, just so you know, you have put it out in the universe that's what you want to do, and doors are going to start opening, and you're going to bypass multiple doors and say, no, not for me, not for me. But one day, finally, you will give in and step in, and you're going to walk through that door. So lo and behold, fast forward a little bit, they call me at work and say, you need to travel the country and train people. And I was like, yeah, no, I live in Oklahoma City. I have tickets to the Thunder NBA. We're going to the playoffs.
Priorities.
This was a few years ago, obviously. I said no, and they went, no, you're going. You're doing this. So I did it, and I traveled for a solid year. I got back to the office on Friday, April 19th. And I always go to the anniversary of the bombing ceremony. I don't dwell on it throughout the year, but I always go that day. Yes. And I went. And then that Tuesday, my boss comes running in and says, they're reorganizing the office. You have to retire or move. And I said, well, you're crazy. Well, she wasn't. She actually had gotten in the news first. Mm. And I thought, I have been training for a year. I've gotten really pretty good at it. They were a captive audience, right? Because they had to attend. They didn't have a choice.
Maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever. And so I traveled the country for a year training. And then I had just over a year, or almost a year and a half, to get a business put in place. So when they said I could actually retire, I could walk out and step into Takagi Consulting. It's had multiple names, multiple iterations.
Sure.
But it's kind of the same thing. I want to train people. I love sharing my stories. I love telling people what I did and about my mistakes. Like, I'm pretty transparent of all the things I did wrong. Yeah. But right after I retired, I was going through some papers, and I found an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper torn out of a notebook. It was landscape. And I don't even, I have a really good memory, but I do not remember when this was done.
Okay.
But it said long-term, short-term goals. And it was obviously part of a class. And it was like short-term goals, 3 to 6 months, long-term goals, 3 to 5 years. And I put on there, in the next 3 to 5 years, I want to retire early. I want to start my own business, and I want to be a trainer. And what I'm going to do is research how to get certified to train some classes. I'm going to read some books, blah, blah, blah. And literally, I did that about 5 to 6 years before I actually did it.
Okay.
So I put the purpose out there.
Sure
I
did.
told the universe what I wanted. And then they snatched my job away from me and said, okay, go.
I love it. And so you're talking about the moments that I think show up for us that feel divinely guided, not necessarily when sometimes we know it. Sometimes we have a sense of something otherworldly happening, but so often I think it's in hindsight that we go, oh my God, I was being gifted this really beautiful nugget of wisdom, but you would only pick it up if you were listening, right? I mean, so I think there was something about that leaning into the listening part of our souls, like, something unique is happening here. And then you sat next to someone that talked to you about spirituality. So this woman told you about that you needed to do something different, but then who was it that talked to you about your spirit? Because that was a game changer for you as well. Am I right? I thought there was someone that you were talking, because you mentioned something to me in a story about your Christianity, and that someone then mentioned something to you that kind of knocked you for a loop a little bit, because it was a little bit against the wheelhouse of what you'd always kind of had your spirituality kind of show up as. Am I thinking of someone else? I swear this was you.
Well, no, it's just I'm thinking one story, and I think that's a different story, because we talk a lot. There are a lot.
We do. There's some stories.
And so, and some of this part of the spiritual journey I've been on this last year, kind of bumped up to the conventional wisdom. That may or may not be 100% accurate. Like, I still believe in God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. That's a given.
Sure.
And like the age of my soul, like, I never really considered that. My oldest sister has always said I was born 100 because I'm the youngest, but I ran the family. And she's like, yeah, you were just born old. Yep. And then you start learning that, gee whiz, my spirit could have been around for a long time. And then the idea of the angels are in the Bible. They talk about the angels in the Bible. Archangel Gabriel came and told story. Okay, very important, but I didn't realize they're still like doing it today.
Right.
That was shocking to me, because at my church, which is a very liberal Christian church, come please, everyone, you're invited. Not gonna take you anything. Like, we didn't talk about the angels. Like, nobody said, did you know that you really have a guardian angel right now today taking care of you and helping you? And I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm driving down the street one day, and it's like 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, and there is a stoplight and then a block and a stoplight. So it's kind of a crazy configuration.
Yeah.
I'm going 40 miles an hour. There is a car in the left lane to my left. And I can see out of the corner of my eye, there is a car going like 70 miles an hour south, and their light, it has changed. And I'm going to T-bone this car, or the car next to me is going to T-bone him, because it's like a divine, perfect storm. And in that moment, I wanted to say, hey, ladies, stop your car. How do you do that? You don't. No. So I literally was guided to slam on my brakes and horn at the same time. And I literally was standing up in my seat. I was standing on my brake so hard, scared the crapola out of this little girl. She slams on her brakes because I'm honking and slamming on mine, and she doesn't know what else to do. She missed T-boning that guy by inches.
Wow. Yikes.
And then we both look around, and we get to the next light that is red, and she leans over her boyfriend, and he opens the window, and I roll my window down, and she goes, you just saved our lives. Like, we would have been dead. And it was like, I know, like, you can't take it back. People, step into it. You can't take it back. Yes, I know. Right. You would have been dead. He would have been dead. It would have been
it would have been awful. Right.
And I know they didn't train me for that in driver's education.
No, they left that part out.
They left that part out. So fast forward 6 6 months, I'm going to work and 2 cars in front of me is at a dead stop to turn left. The car in front of me is at a dead stop. Now I'm at a dead stop. I look in my rearview mirror. Here comes a van, like a work truck van. He is going 45 miles an hour. I can see in my rearview mirror, he's talking to his passenger.
Oh no.
And I thought, I'm getting ready to be rear-ended and hit the car in front of me. So I'm totaled. Like my car is now totaled. I can just see the whole thing. Lay on your horn, Jennifer. Lay on your horn. I laid on my horn and the guy literally changed lanes at the very last second. So I think we get those messages. We don't listen. Why would I lay on my horn and stand on the brake with this gal next to me? You know, why would I just sit there honking my horn when nobody in front of me can go, right? Because that's what you think. The car in front of you is thinking, oh, I can't go anywhere. It was to get the guy behind me's attention because he needed to move.
Yeah.
And so I think we have much more. And I was just having a conversation yesterday with somebody and they said, how do you step into your intuition? Like, how do you hear that? How do you know those voices? And the first one is you have to be still.
Oh, it's so good. That is so hard for people, isn't it though? I mean, you can tell people that you're blue in the face, but they don't believe us. Okay. So one is be still. Let's come back around because I love that. Yeah. What's next?
Be calm.
Be calm.
Like you have to be still. You have to be calm. Yes. And this is the hardest one. Okay. Hold on to your seats, people.
Seatbelt.
Yeah. Hang on. You have to be open.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be open to the possibility because a lot of times, I was closed-minded for so many years. I needed security. That was my number one value. I wanted a steady paycheck. I wanted benefits. Like I needed to build this world. And that was important to me. That was critically important to me. Right. I could have never stepped out on this journey if I hadn't had that, just because of my makeup. Right. That's just who I am. And so the more open I am to the possibilities of greatness, the more come. Yeah. I was probably 13 or 14 and my mom took some classes at the community college a bazillion years ago. And she came home and said, you know, you have to visualize what you want, Jennifer. And I was like, Mom, I just want to pass my math test tomorrow. Like, that's what I want.
Right.
Visualize it. Visualize that grade on the paper, blah, blah, blah. And then she just kept bringing it up. And I thought, okay, my mom is the neighborhood mom who lost her marbles. Like, let's go find them for her. But nobody was talking about that back then. Right. Like now you hear it all the time. Yes. There are podcasts about it. There are YouTube videos. Right. Let's do a visualization exercise. Yeah, I do them all the time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But it wasn't a big deal back then. But, you know, it's so... You have to be open to the possibility. What if I just had a Facebook post on this or a social media post recently. What if you didn't complain for one whole day? Like no matter what happened. Yeah. Okay. So what if you could visualize yourself as being amazing?
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. Big power. There's so much power in that. You're right that's exactly what I think we could all step more into is that stillness, the calm, the open-mindedness. Because when we're super shut down, our energy is like this. I always talk about it like it's a contracted muscle. You want it, right? So we have like emotion code training, but I imagine our energy is like this. It's clenched, it's tight, and it's stuck. And so the open-mindedness allows that to relax a little bit, to be more receptive. And so there's something energetic about opening ourselves up to possibility that, right, whatever's happening, there might be something a little more magical to it than we even give it credit. There might be something beyond us happening. And even if you're not in a space of woo-woo-ness enough to okay, I don't know what that means, but maybe I could be open enough to consider that there's something that's happening. Maybe there's a scientific reason for it, but I'm open to receiving. And there is something really powerful about just opening yourself up to the possibilities of things happening for you. And look at all the times you could identify for us where you were being guided. I always think that's the power of telling purpose stories, is that, you didn't define for me, Jen, that everything was easy. You didn't say to me, Jen, it was this straight shooting, super clear. I always knew exactly what the hell I was doing. That wasn't the journey. You just put your seatbelt on and you kept going. There was something internal in you that had enough faith that like my journey, I'm just going to keep playing this out and I'm just going to keep showing up the best version of who I can be. I just talked about that today in my life. It's like, can you just show up and make every single situation you're ever in just a little bit better? That's purposeful living. Those acts of service we offer, the acts of kindness, purposeful living. So there's so many ways that we can do this. And what I wanted to do was eliminate the fallacy we have, so many of us. When we see someone successful, that they're like a flat Stanley, like they just woke up and it was like I added, you know, those little capsules when we were kids, and this is going to age me, that were in plastic and you put them in water and they grew into these sponge creatures, right? Anybody ever do? Okay. So, right. That's what I think so many people have this idea about what success looks like. Someone sprinkled water on Jennifer Takagi and her magic just bloomed and she was successful from point A to point B. Like there was no story between. And so I'm so passionate about bringing people awareness that no, it's not a straight line. It's going to feel like we detour, we go here, but every single piece of that is lining us up, every single part, even the really painful parts, to really be able to step into our purpose. And so even that you know, horrific loss on your part, that moment of finding out about losing people that were so important in your life, you had this momentous, life-changing gift that day. That changes you. That changes who we are. It changes how we show up in the world. And that was a part of the journey that you needed to have to get you where you are. So what I would want to say to you is, what do you think your purpose is, Jen? If you could identify it in like an essence, the essence of who you are, the essence of what you bring to the world, what would you tell me that you think that your purpose is?
To encourage people. And so like I was playing around with websites one time, and on this one, they had like little templates to try to help get you spur your ideas on what to put in what sections.
Sure.
And it said, I'm the CEO, the Chief Encouraging Officer. And it was like, you know, that's really, my mother was a master at it. Yeah. One day my brother said, Mom, when are you going to learn that I'm not as beautiful and brilliant as you say I am? And my brother was the beautiful and brilliant one of the family. And she looked at him and she goes, well, that's never going to happen.
No.
Like, because you just are. And so it's that ability to help someone else find out what their next step is. That's one of the blessings of Akashic Records, because you already know what's on your soul. You already know what's in your heart. And all I do is help people pull that out, right? What they already know, help just draw it out a little bit more. You and I had a reading the other day, and there was nothing surprising or new in it, right? I mean, it just was what you already knew, but you can't always get there by yourself.
Right. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. And then the emotion code, I did a reading for myself the other day, a clearing, if you will. And like, I had stuff from a little kid that like, I didn't even know was still with me. And you talk about our emotions and the energy and the openness, you know, being tight and constricted. You have to like clear all that out in order to make room for the good, for the rest. And Marianne Williamson wrote a book, and I think it was something like about the book, A Course in Miracles.
Right.
And I was talking to somebody way back when, and they said, oh, well, I want a miracle. And I said, well, number one, did you ask for one? Number two, do you have any expectation of getting one? Because if you don't, sorry, it's not happening.
It's not going to happen. That's right.
And then the third thing is, what do you think a miracle is? And Marianne Williamson defines it so beautifully. It's a change in perspective.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So what is your purpose? Your purpose is to be a light for others in whatever gifts you have.
That's right. That's right. And that's what's so, I think, essential to me is people understanding, you know, there's so many myths around purpose. And so the things that you hear very often are, it's a role. I'm a teacher. I'm a mom. I'm a sister. I'm a teacher. And what we miss is that that's too narrow for what you are. It's too narrow for the light that you have. And so that's not enough. And so then sometimes people are like, okay, so I think it's something bigger. But I'm going to do it in one way. I'm going to deliver it in one way. That was my belief. I'm going to deliver it as a psychotherapist for the rest of my life. I'm going to retire as a psychotherapist. That's not true either. And it's really about something that we're energetically carrying within us. And I always, quote Maya Angelou is my favorite, which is people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And that is the very basis for how I view our purpose, is how people feel in our field. When they're around us, when they come into our lives, whatever capacity that might be, it's actually how they walk away feeling that is very purposeful to me. And so you have probably likely been an encourager your entire life. Am I right?
Probably.
Yes, I'm certain that you have. And I'm certain that it was something that, whatever you wanted to call it, or, whatever, it's something that was the light that you carried. You were going to be a guide. You were going to be a teacher. You were going to support. You were going to hold space for people and lift them up. You helped me figure out how to write an Amazon Kindle bestseller. And so I can say, just within knowing you, I've witnessed your purpose and how it comes through you. You didn't have any reason you needed to do that for me. That was an incredible gift of kindness. And so I've witnessed what you do outside. That's one small piece of all the things that I know you're talented in. So that's like one small little nugget, but I really wanted to just get at that. So like your essence would be, I am an encourager. Like I show up and I'm going to help hold space and encourage and elevate people, because that's what I was put here to do, which I just think is absolutely beautiful. So what are your takeaways? Do you have a couple takeaways that you've talked about them. You've already given us lots of beautiful nuggets and wisdom about tapping into intuition and how we want to be to do that. Tell me, are there takeaways that you want to leave people with as we sort of wrap here today? What are your ideas about purposeful living? What would you tell people to sit with, to give them something to digest and think about as they move forward into living into their purpose?
Well, that's a big, deep topic, but
sure is.
I am going to say, what brings you joy?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're doing something and it doesn't bring you joy, no happiness, then you're probably not in your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started college and decided up front, I'm majoring in French and Spanish, and that's what I did. Actually, I probably stopped a few credits short of the Spanish one because their literature was just too sad for me. And you can only have so many floods or droughts, I was like, my God, I'm 21 years old. I can't have another dead crop. So I quit that. I gave up on it. But I've told people this time and again, I got a college degree because I didn't want a full-time job. Literally, that was my whole goal. I wanted to postpone being an adult for 4 years. Little did I know how hard college would be. But, me and my, the world according to Jennifer, I say that a lot. Mm-hmm. So you cannot major in something in college if you have no gift for it. Because
you just don't want to.
You're going to pull your hair out. You're going to be miserable. You're not going to make good grades because it's too hard.
Right.
Likewise, if you have a really strong interest in something, but no aptitude, you're going to pull your hair out because you're never going to be able to pass. It's a both and. You can't stick to it if it's not something you have a passion for.
Yes.
And you enjoy. So my my college boyfriend, who I married for 12 months and 11 days, that's a whole separate episode. One day he said, you make really great grades in school and you're in that honors program, taking honors classes, mind you. You took a class and then you had additional stuff to make it honors credit. Mm-hmm. He goes, you're doing that because it's all easy. And I walked away feeling really bad about myself because I believed him because I was having a little existential moment of being an idiot. Right. And I thought he was right. And it hit me with a ton of bricks. It was easy for me because I have a gift for it and I loved it.
That's right.
So that came together for easy for me.
Exactly.
So if what you're doing is really hard, it may not be for you.
I just said that today. it shouldn't have to be that hard. If
Oh
you
my
hate
God,
your
I'm doing a talk tonight and it's called It Shouldn't Be That Hard.
I mean, for real though, if you're doing something every day and it's just wretched and it's
Sucking the
taxing,
life out of you.
oh my God, there is nothing. Here's what I was going to say. Like, I was going to make a little meme, like, life is too short to have a job you hate. Oh my God. Yeah, challenging. Yes. But I'm not talking challenging. My work is challenging. Your work is challenging. But we freaking wake up and we love what we do. And that's different. It's soul challenge. It's intellectual challenge. It makes us grow every day. That's different than I literally hate what I do. And you're so right that it's so important to me to know where you light up and what you're actually good at. What are your gifts? And so that's one of the things that I'm working with coaching clients and all the time. Like, what are you great at? Where do you shine? Are you tapping into that? So what do you love? What are you good at? How can we pull that in to really tuck in that alignment for you? Because that is alignment. Alignment is living into those spaces, right? And I love that. So that's so beautiful. And what do you think about, Jen? I mean, I guess one of the big takeaways I have that I think is really linking me to this podcast and why I created is I also think it's the grittiness of our lives that actually prepares us for purposeful living. It's in the making of meaning from the things that happen for us that I actually also think clearly define us. So I look at our stories a lot with my clients, like, okay, what are the stories that got you here? What do you think about that, Jen? What do you think about that idea that there's something about the grittiness, the struggles, look at the incredible loss that you endured, and more than that. So that's just one. I also know you lost parents. You've had some pretty significant loss in your life, but I want to talk about, what do you think about that grit idea? Do you think that is that ability to make meaning? How crucial is that in making purpose for your life?
Well, I just want to go off the rails for a second and say,
here we go. Put your seatbelt on. Okay, go ahead.
Hang on, people, hang on. It shouldn't be that hard.
Right.
And we have things that happen that are tragic. We have things that happen that are catastrophic.
Yes.
We have things happen like you didn't get the job you wanted, and somebody might say, oh, that's not catastrophic. It is. It crushed my soul when I didn't get that job that I really wanted and I applied for.
Right.
So grief is like this encompassing thing of where you lost something that you loved or wanted.
Absolutely.
And so, I think we focus too much on what didn't go right and not enough on what did go right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the grit is important, and it's important to bring up, but it's important not to stay there very long.
Exactly. It's right. It's taking the wisdom from something, I think, and making that useful to you. Right. So often we hear, I know this really pisses people off because it feels ishy to people, but this isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. And that's really, I really actually believe that I do think that the tough things that show up, had I not had a trauma at 17, had I not been through a really painful experience at 17 years old, I will guarantee you, I would not have been a teen therapist. I worked with teenagers for over 20 years in a practice. It was a specialty of mine. I know I was being gifted an awful, tragic trauma experience in order to step into the wisdom and insight that I would utilize to hold space for other teenagers for 20 years. I would take an act of profound kindness and make it my mission to live into supporting others who were going through something hard at the same stage of life that I was. So those things, those parts of the story profoundly create space where you're then hemmed into, in a good way, alignment, being prepared for things. And I think that's how I look at our tough moments, is they're always preparing us. The things that look not necessary or not important are important. The things that look like they were mistakes are still preparing us. The heartbreak about not getting a job is preparing you for resilience.
And that resiliency piece is so huge.
It's huge.
I've seen people who literally did not lose someone till they were upper age, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, sure.
and they just completely fall apart because they didn't learn the process, right? So the grit is there, the hard times are there, the hard stories are there, but take what you need from them and keep moving forward.
Yes.
So soon after the bombing, there was a psychologist who had done some training for our office, and I met him for lunch, and this other girlfriend and I went and saw him, and she was just devastated because a good friend of both of ours never got to work before 9:30. Like that was just her MO. She showed up at 9:25, 9:30 because you had to be there at 9:30. And that day she showed up at 10 till 9 and she was killed at 9:02. And so like she was focused on that, like she could not let that go and was struggling with letting go of the horrors of the day. And there were a lot of horrors, and that's, you know, for another day, and cocktails.
Right, exactly.
And he said just the most profound thing. And I've watched other people go through trauma and massive loss. And I think, gosh, if I could share his message with the world, like we'd be a better place. But he said, what happened that day is written on an index card. And that index card is right here, blocking your eyes, blocking your view. All you see is that index card with the video just in a loop.
Playing over, right?
Whole day.
Right.
If you can take that index card and file it, you're never forgetting, but you're choosing when to remember.
Yeah.
And so that's why on April 19th, I choose to go to the service. This last year, literally, there were like 5 people I knew there, because the people I worked with have retired, they've passed away, they've moved away, whatever. There were only a handful of us there. My office, for whatever reason, they don't ever make a big deal about anybody from the office who wasn't there at the time going. And I think I would have made it mandatory. Like if I was the boss, like you have to go, you need to see what happened and like be a part of it. But that's my day to relive it and be a part of it and cry for my friends I lost and my friends that never recovered, because there's a chunk that never recovered. Absolutely. And so like they say, we'll never forget. Well, that's a very negative statement. We'll never forget. And that makes me just want to go puke and come back and start over, because what we really mean to say is, I will always remember.
Yeah.
And that's positive. I'm going to remember the friends I love.
Yes.
I'm going to remember the horror of the day. I'm going to remember it, but I moved my index card.
Yes. That's beautiful.
And I don't have to remember it every day.
Right.
The grit that got me here, super happy to talk about. But do I wake up in the morning and say, oh my gosh, I worked so hard to get here, all the things.
Right. No.
Like I wake up and I'm like, so what are we doing today? I'm recording some podcasts. I have a couple of calls. I'm doing this, you know, and it's a different feel. And for those of you who are listening and you're in a job that doesn't bring you joy, I want to warn you, number one, you're probably creating a lot of the mess yourself. I'm sorry, I don't mean to hurt your feeling, but I'm a little bit blunt. You need to make a list of reasons why you go every day. Because there were days, I had a boss, she was evil. She's still alive, so she's still evil. And I don't say that lightly. She's truly evil.
Yeah.
And like I started waking up in the middle of the night with a panic attack, and I'm not even an anxiety ridden person because I didn't know what I was going to walk into the next day. And I literally had to make a list of reasons why I was going to stick it out and stay until I could retire and try not to let her destroy any more of my health, because that was a big thing, mental and physical. But there were so many more reasons for me to stay than to drop it and lose everything I had built.
Right. Sure.
So if you're in a job you're not loving, find the things you do like about it. Like you may not like the bureaucracy that's involved, because federal government, let me tell you, girl, I had some bureaucracy working in corporate mortgage banking. There's bureaucracy, but I liked the people I helped.
Right.
I like the fact that I could impact their life, and I could make sure that the heat was on and the water was running, and you know, everything.
Absolutely.
So like I hated all of this, but I loved this.
Right.
So this is what I had to focus on. So if you're doing something you don't just totally love, that's okay. You picked that job for a reason. You like the pay, you like the benefits, you like the experience you're getting, you like the people you work with. There's a reason. Quit focusing on why you hate it and start focusing on what it does for you. And then work with Jen and start figuring out that exit strategy. Right? Like, what am I going to do to move on to something that brings me joy and happiness?
Right. Because you can have something different, but in the meantime, you can be okay where you are. And there's something powerful in that that's about resilience for everyone for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter if it's work or something else related.
Yes.
If I can figure out a way to be okay where I am and know that it's temporary and know that I can make another choice when it's the right time for me, that's really empowering. Like I would tell people when they hated work and psychotherapy, I'd be like, go do job hunting, go job search. Even if you're not ready to do it, go to job interviews, you'll feel better because you're saying, I have some control. I'm going to teach you, you have some control. And so there's something empowering in that. And so, yeah, it's like, just be okay where you are, finding the things, understanding that there is a reason you are where you are. We might not see it. I tell people I wish I had left sooner when I started really knowing I wasn't where I needed to be. But the fact of the matter is, I don't actually wish that. I know that I was being called sooner because it was preparing me. And I also know that very likely there were clients that needed me to be there. For part of their story was requiring me to be there. So I just went, okay, right now, this is where I need to be. I will fill this part of my purpose, part of my journey, and then I will move on when it's time. And it happened all in divine timing. And so we just want to think about, can I be okay where I am until it can be different? And the resilience that comes from our gritty moments. And I really appreciate you sharing about part of that story that I know. And I know that's only like, I know you have a handful of traumas you and I just talked about as friends. And I'm not going to store them up for you. But I mean, I just want to say that one of the things I really do truly love about you is that is what I see in you is, and that's where I see really successful women is the resilience in them. And it wasn't that someone handed them a silver spoon and said, here, we were broke ass. I mean, when I tell you, like, as a family, we were broke ass. We had lost everything. So it wasn't that I had somebody spoon feeding me. I paid for my own college. I paid for, everything I have, I worked for that thing. And so what I never want to have happen is someone to show up that's this beautiful soul that says, I can't do all that. I don't have all those gifts. Oh, you've got gifts and you're gritty enough to make that shit happen. You don't have to be handed a silver spoon. You weren't. I wasn't. We were not just dealt out like dollar bills, all the exciting awesomeness of life. No, we fought. We fought.
Well, I loved having the conversation with you one day because I got a text message that said something like, well, you're just surrounded by people. And when things are bad, like you have this whole village taking care of you. And I think you said something, and if you can, make it better, get it right. It was like, we put on people what we think their story is, and it may not be their story at all.
Oh my God. All the time. And
how did you say that? You said that better. I don't
remember, but I know what you're saying. I remember our conversation exactly because I was driving in the car across Nebraska. But what I think is so powerful is that idea that it's so interesting to me, the way that we make vast assumptions about the people around us. And so when people say to me, you're the happiest person I know, this is me. I was kind of, Jesus, okay, that's a lot of like weight. And you just, you're always hopeful and you're always happy. And I'm very blessed. I have a great freaking life. I mean, like and I fucking work for that. I mean, if somebody shows up and says that to me and they think that behind the scenes, I was chasing the daisies and like everything was easy and everything just came easy for me. And I just was granted all these opportunities. That is not at all what happened. I worked my tail off for every single hoop as a clinical social worker and moving through family trauma and trying to make sense of that and being a married person and trying to make sense of the trauma and how I was going to show up and how am I going to be a clinical social worker and deal with these pieces. And it's like, that was all work. It was effort. It was grit. And so I always want people to understand that purposeful living is for everyone. It isn't something that you were just granted as a gift, or I was just granted as a gift that we just knew this. Yes, you and I were really blessed early on. I think that we kind of had a sense, an energetic sense of what we were going to do, but we didn't know exactly what form it would take. And we didn't know the things that would happen along the way that would be molding us, that grit along the way. But all of that is so intentional. It's so purposeful. And as we are resilient, as we grow those muscles, the energetic and purpose muscles, by experiencing that, it actually makes us profoundly different human beings, that we step into that light in a different way. And so I want people to understand, like, you're going to fight for this some of the time. You're going to go through some really awful shit to get to the other side of that. And I saw it in my office for over 20 years. Trauma, people are so resilient. It's one of the most brilliant things I took away from being a psychotherapist is, don't tell me you can't. Don't tell me you can't live through that. Don't tell me that won't be useful to you. You can't tell me there isn't hope, because I've seen it in hundreds of cases and 15,000 hours of psychotherapy. So I just see the capacity of the human spirit as something so much bigger than we give ourselves credit for. And I just want to make the connection that it is in all of that grit that we're becoming who we're going to be. And we're like diamonds, and it's the pressure and it's the grit and all of that that's actually transforming us. And to make space for yourself to show up and know that there's muscles in there, that's how our strength shows up. It's because of all the things we've gone through to get here. I did not get here riding through on a pony in fields of beautiful blowing grass on the beach. Okay. I fought and kicked and blood, sweat, and tears, and no amount of angst to try to figure this out, no amount of therapy, no small amount of healing services. You and I both engage in those things. We take care of ourselves. We show up and do those things as well as deliver them, right? Absolutely. We know the value of self-care and taking care of ourselves in those spaces, because we want to show up for our people in divine light. And I've got to shed some of that garbage as I go, because the grit's going to show up, and it's going to show up over and over from time to time. And we're going to get triggered. We're going to have to do our work. And so there's something really valuable in that, and making it that this is accessible to everybody.
It's a choice.
It is.
It's a choice. And you can choose to stay in the muck and say, I'm just stuck in, that story about the two boys in the room full of manure, and the one's like, oh, this is terrible, and the other one said, there has to be a pony in here somewhere. You're not going to stay in this season forever. This year, it's 2022 right now when we're recording this, and I mean, I've already had COVID again, 2 tragic deaths. Yeah, I've got some teeth issues going on that are killing me that I'm going to get taken care of. I mean, like, I've had a lot of things happen, right? And I have to give myself grace. I can show up the best I can when I can, and then it's going to get better. It's a season. It is. It's a season. I had a season one year. I had a lot of deaths in the family, a lot. It doesn't last forever. A really wise gentleman that I worked with said, everybody has those seasons. Just know it will pass. It will. So at some point, we have to wake up in the morning and say, that negative, pessimistic person that crawled in bed last night is gone. Exactly. I've said that a few times in my life. I'm going to step into being a light for the world, a beacon for the world. Exactly. I'm going to help one person today. Exactly. I used to tease when I'd run for the elevator and I'd hold it open for somebody, and I'd go, ha! That was my one good deed for the day. I'm done. Like, I haven't even gotten to my desk yet. So, but it has to be that all day long. It does. Exactly. It's an intentional showing up. And honestly, it's an energetic thing that we show up that way. That it's one of the reasons I want to empower women when I work with them, is that so many people that I know come from a place of feeling victimized by things that happen. And I want to teach them that you're actually so very powerful, and you have so much capacity for empowerment to adjust and pick a different journey, a different path, a different state, a different whatever it is. And so you talked about that mud, that's the lotus. And that mud is creating us. It's actually, so we get to decide, do I want to stay here, like you said, or do I want to rise up out of that
in a new way, in a different way, in a new light, with a new energy, a new idea, new intention, a new set of, ideas about how I can step into this, that we always are granted that capacity to begin again. And it's helping people learn and understand that you have that ability with you all the time. It's riding around with you, and it's learning to harness it. That's so powerful. So
well, that same brilliant counselor that told us about, the index card said, after a traumatic event like the Oklahoma City bombing, people will fall into one of three categories. In 6 months, they're basically going to be the same person that they were, pretty much no change, or they're never going to recover at all, or they're going to choose to be a better person from here on out. And they don't break into even thirds, but they're going to fall into one of three buckets. And I literally watched my coworkers fall into one of the three buckets. And I was just determined every day, I am going to recover, and I'm going to come out a better person.
Yes. Yes.
And that's the choice. Like, we live in a world of choice.
We do. We do. Absolutely. I think that's so powerful. And again, one of the things I think I knew about you just in meeting you was just that this is how you're wired. That despite the fact that you and I have talked as friends, and I know some of the traumatic things that have happened for you, there is a light within you that you just keep trucking. And to me, like I said, it's gritty women are my favorite people. They are. I don't know what to do with people when they go, oh, everything's awesome. This is me. I don't know what the hell to do with that. Like, are you joking? Like, I have a really great life, and still I wouldn't say that if someone said, how are you? Perfect. What? No, it's not, because it's hard. There's some hard things in it. And everything is how I choose to show up to that. And you choose resilience, you choose strength, you choose a different lens of like, how can I use this to step more into my light? How can I use this to inspire other women? How can I use this in my work? How can I help change other people's lives? So that is that's a value thing, though. There's a value in that we value resilience, we value strength, we value the stories and showing up and making it useful. I would rather use those things as inspiration. I could shut down. We could have shut down anytime. There's several traumas. I tell people and they're like, I sound like Jerry Springer. I mean, no shit. It sounds like something right out of Jerry's, but probably aged me a whole boatload too, but right. It's total Jerry Springer stuff. And yet here I am. And so to me, those are testaments that we get to decide how we're going to take those things in life and what we're going to do with them that really make us who we are. And I think that's what shines in people. For me, it's that gritty resilience and strength and beauty that comes from being pressed, being, pushed and having traumas and experiences in life, things that are really could have knocked us out. And so I really value that in you. And I value that in the other gritty women that I've been really blessed to know. And so I want to say thank you so much, Jen. I knew you were just going to be an incredible guest anyway. You're just a firecracker. And that's always like just my, like, you got great energy flowing out of you all the time. So you and I always have fun work together regardless, but I knew you were going to be a wonderful interview and share your insights for people. And what I want to do is give you a minute to let people know where they can find you. And if you have something that you would like to give them as a gift, it's always like a neat way to kind of end the time together to be able to share something like that. So if you would let people know where they can find you, and then if you have a freebie thing that you would like to share with them, I would love for you to be able to share that with everyone.
Oh, thanks so much, Jen. This has been just amazing. I love visiting with you. We were going to talk for 10 minutes. I think we blew past that a long time ago. So my website is takagiconsulting.com. It'll be in the show notes so you can spell it. And I'm on Facebook, Takagi Consulting. I post there pretty much every day, LinkedIn, all the places.
Yes.
Jennifer Takagi, Jennifer Jaggers Takagi also. And so my free gift for your people is I am working on my certification for emotion code work. And it's amazing work to help release those emotions that are trapped in your body from various traumas. It can be a huge trauma. It can be a little trauma, but it gets trapped within you. The sessions are about 20 minutes. I would love to offer that to anyone who chooses to click the link. I'll put the link in the show notes and they can grab that and book a session.
That's awesome. Jennifer, again, I just want to say that I adore you and I'm so grateful for you coming in here and sharing your story with me and the audience. And I truly believe that there is something so incredibly magical about you. And like I said, I think I knew it from the minute I met you. There is just something about being in your presence. And that's always, again, that's you and I both. I think that's what we sense in people, again, is that energetic expression of how they show up to the world, and feel so grateful to have met you and been able to share some of this entrepreneurial, that's a really weird word to say, journey together. And so I'm so grateful for our friendship and for sharing this space and for the light and the wisdom that I think that you bring to the world. And so anyway, so if you're interested, please go check her out. I'm telling you that Jennifer is out of this world as a human being, and you will not be sorry if you spend some time in her presence and her energy, because she's just a powerhouse. So Jen, thanks again so much. Thanks everybody for being here and joining us, and come and join me next time and take a listen. Until then, this is Jen sending blessings, love, and light, and supporting you on your rise and your path to purpose.